Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me? Good afternoon. Is everybody still awake? You know, it's been a long afternoon for at least some of you. So I'm not Mehmet, I'm Natasha. I work for GenBand in product marketing. And looks like we're going to talk about vision for 2020. Now, what this is really not something that we can really attribute to GenBand vision, but GenBand has been working with some of the largest service providers globally. The top 80 out of the 100 service providers happen to be our customers. So we have been feeling a lot of the pain that they have been going through over the last several years. We've been seeing the transformation that these large companies are going through. And we've been seeing what they are trying to do in terms of moving their networks, their business models, and so forth. And what we thought is perhaps we could share what we are seeing and we are hearing, and hopefully it resonates with a lot of you, or at least some of you. So with that, so it was 2000, the year 2000. How many of you in this room had cell phones that they were carrying every single day? 1, 2, 3. Please don't say everybody. That leaves me out. Because I was not. I had a cell phone. It was kind of big. And I used to keep it. The battery would drain. We'd keep it around. And, that's how we used cell phones in the year 2000. So we are now in the year 2011, and a lot has changed. We've come a long way. The subscribers that the service providers are getting used to is actually changing quite a bit. The expectation of the subscribers is changing quite a bit. The subscribers today are a very different generation than what they used to be 10 years ago. Today, the end consumer wants a lot. There is a lot of expectation. The end consumer wants to have availability of a lot of different types of applications. They want all of these different applications on all these different types of devices, and they want it anytime, and they want it anywhere. This is expectation. This is the expectation of the end consumer. And it looks like, from what we can see from what our service providers are seeing, this is a trend that is affecting everybody. Every single service provider is being affected one way or the other by what the end consumer is looking to do and what the end consumer wants. So here is what some of our friends in the industry, our analyst friends, are saying, and I think it's very, very relevant. So here are a few statistics coming from, for example, IDC and Gartner, and this is not a projection for 2020, actually this is a projection for this year. A couple of the things here, 330 million smartphones will be sold this year. You'll see 42 million tablets sold this year. Remember tablets? When they came out last year, how many of you had tablets? And now tablets are already in the second generation. Apple announced one, then they announced the other. The industry is now full of tablets. It is surprising if people don't have tablets anymore. So this market is evolving really fast. Let's look at subscribers, subscriber behavior. Everybody goes on the internet. But what's interesting is that now 50% of the subscribers who are going onto the internet actually are doing so on their mobile devices. It's a very, very different market today. Let's look at applications. Of course, this is mostly a cloud-based conference, so let's talk a little bit about applications. There will be more than 25 billion mobile app downloads this year. More than 25 billion. That's a big, big number. And 80% of these applications will be available in the cloud. So 80% of these 25 billion applications will be cloud-based. That's a staggering number. And ultimately, this is going to create tremendous amount of data in your network. This is going to create more than 2 trillion gigabytes of data in the internet. This is going to require storage. It's going to require computational power. It's going to require all kinds of things that had not been imagined before. So what seems to be fundamentally happening as we talk to our service providers, they all started out a long time ago in the telco market. They all offered fixed line voice services, and they're all now struggling. And they're seeing something is changing, and it's changing very fast, and it's out of sort of their control. And it's all because of consumer behavior. There was a time that we had fixed line voice. Then fixed line voice started getting substituted by mobile voice. Now it's like people are substituting voice altogether. People are not looking at voice. Instead of voice, people are looking at, for example, text messaging. So the way the subscribers are communicating today or want to communicate today has fundamentally changed, and that's changing all the business models. Subscribers today, end users, the way they want to communicate is through, for example, Facebook. What do? You do your update your status. That is a way of communicating. Forget even about doing things like text messaging. You're looking at things where you're posting photos. That's a way of communicating. You post things here and there. You communicate in multiple ways today that you could not have thought of before. And this is fundamentally changing a lot for service providers as well. We are saying that this is not the only trend. So the consumers are behaving differently, and they also want to be untethered, meaning that they do not want to be logged down to any device, any location permanently. They want to be mobile. And what that is leading to, as we can see, is that this is, kind of starting to eat into your laptop business. For example, you're seeing that the rate at which the laptop market is growing is actually slower than the rate at which the smartphone or the tablet market is growing. So this is a fundamental shift in the market. You're also seeing that fundamentally all of this really means is that the mobile broadband data is growing at a much faster pace than you had anticipated. In fact, 2010 was a very interesting year because this was the first year where the total amount of mobile broadband data actually exceeded the fixed broadband data. So this was a fundamental change, and this is something that's going to affect how communication industry is going to evolve over the next several years. So what do we see in terms of trends? I think we heard a lot, we heard it in the last panel and so forth. As we talk to our service providers, some of our largest service providers, and they're looking at this huge growth of data, what sort of data do they see in their networks? What is it that they're most worried about? It appears to be that every service provider is incredibly worried about video. Video seems to be the data that is growing tremendously, and it's changing business models. This video could be the video that the service providers or cable operators, for example, provide, mobile operators provide, or it is over-the-top models. Over-the-top models like you see here, you now have iTunes, you have Apple TV, you have Netflix, Google TV, many more. And fundamentally, it's a completely different business model than what it used to be several years ago, because you have this flat rate model where you had a subscription to a TV service and you watched that. Now that model is completely changing, because as an end subscriber, I don't want that. I do not want to pay a flat fee for a month, because I wanted to watch only 3 shows. And I want to watch it when I want to watch it, and I want to watch it on the device that I want to watch it. So this is a completely fundamental shift of the business model that we are seeing happening. In terms of the sheer volume of that video traffic is going to be, what we are seeing, we are hearing, this is a data that was published by Cisco. And Cisco predicts that by the year 2015, they are looking at 2/3 of the world's mobile data traffic being video. And when we talk to some of the largest service providers, this is fundamentally scaring them. It's whether it's their traffic or whether it's somebody else's, it's over their networks, and it's a huge problem. And at the end of the day, whether it's traffic that they provide or whether it's whether the content is provided by them or content is provided by anybody else, they are in the end always held responsible because it's coming over their networks. So there is a huge issue. So what are some of the implications of this type of traffic increase? Video, it's no longer a time where people are talking about voice communications. You're talking about video communication. What does this type of video mean? You're talking about high definition video. What does this mean for service providers in terms of their networks? What are the kind of things that they need to have in their networks to be able to handle these kind of things? In older technology, you have soft switches, you had session model controllers, etc. in your networks, and each one of them was used to handle voice traffic. You do voice transcoding, you do voice security, you do voice interworking, interoperability, all of those kind of good things. All of that has now changed. The game is all now about multimedia. In fact, it's mostly about video. And as the video traffic is growing, high definition video is growing, all the things that you knew that were dear to you and that that the service providers were used to working with in the TDM world now translates into IP world and becomes a lot more problematic. How do you guarantee the quality of experience that people initially had and they love in terms of a circuit switch call, which was guaranteed, it was simple, but that's not what consumers want to do. Consumers want video, consumers want multimedia traffic, and consumers want a lot of it. So to be able to scale this type of a solution, to be able to interwork this type of a solution, to be able to monitor and make sure that your end consumers have been getting the quality of experience they want is a huge problem that we see and we hear about from a service provider coming from a core infrastructure perspective. We see that they are extremely worried about that and they are making significant amount of investment in upgrading their platforms and solutions and ensuring that all of that technology can actually work seamlessly. We're also seeing that service providers are also not looking just at video. They're also looking fundamentally at how communication itself is changing. So this is a small picture of what used to be and what it's going to be like. You had a time when you just had your cell phones and you were talking on that, you had some numbers. Then, last several years it was the smartphone era. Everybody had to have a smartphone. That's just the thing that you have to have. Then it was not sufficient to just have your smartphone. So now we're talking, I want the 3-screen experience. I want to be able to have my my smartphone, I want the same experience on my iPad, and I want the same experience on my TV, etc., etc., etc. So you want this type of a seamless experience, and now it's getting even much bigger. Now, us as subscribers are saying, you know what, I actually don't even want to be involved. What I want is all of these devices around me have this hyper connectivity. I want to be able to sit here, as I'm here in Langkawi, and I have a home in Boston, Massachusetts, in the United States, and I'm thinking that I'm here on vacation. Actually, I'm not, but what if I was on vacation, and now I find out, oh my goodness, it's snowing in Boston, and maybe I did not set my heat to the right temperature. Wouldn't it be nice to click a button on my cell phone and make that adjustment happen miles and miles away at my home in Boston? That's the kind of expectation that end subscribers are having. And you're seeing similar models in multiple different verticals. You're seeing this model happen in sectors such as medical. You're looking, medical diagnostics is one of the key areas. Financial sector is another key area. And we're seeing a lot more of these emerge. In fact, if for those of you who were at the Mobile World Congress a few weeks ago, you would have seen that there were multiple service providers, all of them demonstrating these type of capabilities. But if you have these type of capabilities and you have a world that is hyper-connected and connected anything, what does that fundamentally mean? Fundamentally mean that there's a ton of traffic out there, tons and tons of traffic. In fact, one of the things that came out from AT&T at the Consumer Electronics Trade Show earlier in the year, they predict that by 2020 there will be over 50 billion devices that will be connected. Now, anybody know the population of the world? Not 50 billion. So this is saying that this is not people connecting to each other. This is saying it is all about devices connecting to each other. So it's a completely different paradigm, and it's going to have a tremendous implication on the service providers' networks, because service providers' networks will have to deal with it. So what we see happening is that most of these connected devices that we have here, all of this are going to will need to be able to access applications that are cloud-based. So cloud will sort of start becoming a requirement, because if all of these infrastructure, all of these different components, these connected devices are just connecting to each other, it's going to be a huge mess. And it's these 50 billion subscribers, not subscribers, not devices connecting just to each other without any central points of communication. This is going to be a huge mess. So this mandates some form of cloud. It could be a cloud which is private, it could be a cloud which is public, it could be a hybrid cloud. But cloud starts becoming a reality. Now I don't want to go into the software as a service or a PaaS or IaaS or whatever. But that's not the point. The point being, cloud starts becoming a very, very critical component of the solution, because you need that elastic on-demand capacity. You need the compute power. You also need the storage capacity for these types of solutions to actually seamlessly work. We see that applications are actually, the applications that are actually driving this type of connectivity is also going to change. And it's going to have a different form and different impact on the service providers. Why is that? Because with all of these different applications, and we were talking about this in the panel earlier today, if you have all of these hundreds of different applications and they're all using the same internet, who ensures and who prioritizes the traffic? Even if the content is not owned by the service provider, the end responsibility starts becoming that of the service provider. So they need to be able to address that. And this becomes a huge issue. So you see different models start picking up, and those models are where you see that, content becomes something that you would actually give out or distribute in a granular manner. You see bandwidth given out on demand. You do not see bandwidth given out in one big chunk. So these type of models start evolving. You start moving away from a fixed pay-as-you-grow type of model to freemium models, where your base packages are going to be free, and on top of that you have premium charges for content. And those premium charges will be enough to make the difference for the service providers. So we're starting to see some of these models, and we're working with many of them to be able to do some of this. Of course, there will be a lot of congestion. You don't have to speak too much about it. All of this traffic creates congestion in your networks. There is a prediction that there will be 6,000 petabytes of traffic per month on your networks by 2015, which is a lot of traffic. And service providers are going to need to solve these problems as well at multiple points in their networks, whether it's in your core network, whether it's in your backhaul, or whether it's in your radio access network. And you'll use technologies such as femtocells and Wi-Fi offloads. You will use intelligent technologies such as deep packet inspection to be able to address some of these issues. We see the market for mobile data offload growing tremendously, and it is for this reason, because LTE is not going to come anytime soon, and if it doesn't, you still need to be able to solve the mobile data traffic problem. So what we see from our service providers is that there is a need for mobile data offload, which is intelligent offload. It has a security component, it has a deep packet intelligence component to give you intelligence, and it has an offload component within the network. We also see that networks are starting to become very, very intelligent. We do not see going forward that the networks will be able to stay down. And it's for multiple reasons. It could be for as simple as a reason of offloading, and it could be some complex reason to be able to monetize from your networks, to be able to offer tiered service plans, provide things like intelligent content caching, where service providers are part of the value chain and are making some revenues out of the bandwidth that they are actually providing. And we're starting to see that with multiple service providers globally. So intelligent traffic and policy management solutions are going to be key in these types of networks. LTE will eventually come, and it's starting to come. And it is essential from the perspective that it is very high speed, low latency, good coverage with security built in. So we do think that this is going to accelerate some of these solutions. It provides you a better quality of experience, so we certainly see that our larger service providers are investing heavily in this technology. And finally, the last word is around voice traffic. What do we think is going to happen? People say, oh, that's yesterday's story, nothing's going to happen. But you know what? There are new things happening in terms of voice technology as well. Voice over the next several years, many service providers got together and said the way it needs to happen, especially in terms of launching LTE applications, is that the core of the networks is going to be IMS. And if you actually look, and if you think IMS is only about yesterday's voice story and providing the same services, there's actually a lot of new stuff happening as well. In fact, as an example, there is a release 10 of 3GPP. The release 10 of 3GPP, which mandates how IMS actually behaves, provides you some interesting capabilities, and one capability may be something that you can resonate with. It is around earthquake and tsunami warning system. So earthquake and tsunami warning system is now integrated as a technology component in the standards for IMS. So you can see that IMS and voice technology is not just going to be just your plain old voice, but some interesting capabilities which will have further value going forward. So in conclusion, what do we see? We see, talking to our service providers, that business models are changing. We see they're moving from bundled services to a la carte and over-the-top models. We see many of our service providers starting to have relationships with over-the-top service providers for this reason. We see that networks are moving away from voice and SMS to data-based solutions or white-based multimedia solutions. Many of the times the services that are offered, they are freemium-based. It's pay-per-use, it's advertising subsidized, and so forth. And finally, the networks themselves are starting to move completely from TDM to intelligent IP networks. So these are some of the trends that we had started to see within our globe or within our sphere of influence. We talked to a lot of service providers that are customers, and fundamentally this is what we see happening in their networks. So thank you very much.